cheese pineapple pulao. Let's go. Basmati rice 500 grams. Cheese for garnishing. I'm very confused. So when am I adding rice in this? Okay. So did you guys see what happened here? I mean, she thought she had it all together, but in reality, when it actually came to practicing, she was struggling to retain information from a cooking class she did like a few months ago. And that is something I wanted to speak to you guys about today because we actually spend so much of our time and energy trying to learn new information and trying to acquire new skills that we don't think about how we should retain this information, or we highly underestimate the power of retaining information. And that's very important because honestly, if you want to create any kind of a meaningful lasting base in any area, चाहे वो skill हो, information हो, you want to make advancement, you want to achieve any kind of mastery, excellence, then you will need to retain the information that you're putting so much effort into. So that is a very important thing that I wanted to share. And for that, there's this framework called the cone of retention, which is an indicative framework जिसके ऊपर अलग अलग लर्निंग मेथड्स काइंड ऑफ दिए हुए हैं और एक इंडिकेटिव नंबर दिया है कि इससे कितना रिटेंशन हो सकता है, राइट? आई वुड लाइक टू टेल यू दैट इफ यू थिंक दैट दिस फ्रेमवर्क इज जस्ट थियोरेटिकल है कि साइंटिस्ट ने बैठ के बस कोई रिसर्च पेपर में ये सब लिखा हुआ है या वो है, it's not something which is strictly theoretical, because honestly, I want you to look back at your own life and your own experiences, and you will realize that even in your own life, you have had experiences which will make you understand all the structure of retention. Matlab, think about the time, for example, where, and this has happened with everyone, it's a very common example, that's why I'm using it. For example, when we were studying for a test, right? And I'm sure for some test at some point of time, we must have sat day and night and tried to memorize information, right? We are like cramming our brain with more and more information because that's required for the test. And on the day of the test, our poor brain has done all the hard work, and somehow it's pulled together different threads and shreds of information that we've crammed into it in a very short period of time. And somehow on the day of the test, it has managed to reproduce that. और हमको अच्छे marks मिल गए and test is over and all of that, and we feel like, oh, it's great. And on paper, it looks like you've understood everything and you've learned everything. But here's the catch, because the real story actually starts unfolding after that. Because if 1 week later, or forget 1 week, even a few days later, you were to be asked the same questions, um, you will struggle to remember a lot of the things that you learned, right? And the reason that that will happen is because if you look back, you probably would have used some kind of a passive learning method which helped you in short term. It served your purpose, but it didn't help you in terms of कि मेरा meaningful base बन जाए ये area में, मेरा long lasting information बन जाए जो मुझे आगे काम आएगा. That did not happen for you, right? So what are the passive learning methods that you must have used? One, of course, we know is lecture. Lecture is like the lowest form of retention, because in a lecture, your mind has so much freedom to like waver and wander and travel and think of a bunch of different things and maybe be there, not be there, those things. So you don't actually end up retaining so much from it. But, and also, by the way, even if you are very diligent in class, you're really paying attention, you're taking down notes, you're doing all of those things that a good student is supposed to do in class, that still doesn't mean that your retention is going to be good on the basis of that. Now, let's take it a step further. Let's say, for example, you have done something more. You've not just attended the class and not done anything about it. You have come back. You have, the other most common thing is opened your book, gone over your notes and read it over and over again, maybe even trying to memorize it. And while you're doing it, and while you do it like second attempt, third attempt, there is a feeling somewhere, you feel like, okay, now this is getting captured in my brain and now I'm going to remember it. So this should do the trick. But honestly, even that doesn't. You will have to again go back to that notes and again kind of reread it or try to again memorize it. So you'll have to keep repeating the process, and you'll have to do it quite a few times before it starts sticking in a more long lasting manner. So that is why reading may be retention is on the lower side. Then we're talking about demonstration, which is also what she did in this video. You'll see that she went to the cooking class and she took notes and she paid attention and she loved it and she was excited and it was great. Demonstration you have to be careful about, because demonstration can really give you the illusion that, oh my god, I've really learned and I've grown, और मुझे मजा आया, मैंने ये सीखा वो सीखा, you know, like you saw how happy she was, right? But again, this is still passive learning, so beware of that illusion that now I've understood it, even if you have notes, because till you come back and you follow it up with practice, it is not going to, your retention is not going to go up to a higher degree, right? Because your brain is sitting there and thinking, okay, she has given me all this information, and but she's not utilizing it, she's not making use of it, so I don't know if it's useful, I don't know if I need to keep it over here, so let me start, maybe isko abhi thoda side mein hatao, maybe I need to keep making space for new information. So your brain can also feel like that, so you have to come back and you have to utilize it while it is fresh in your memory. And to be fair to her, to give her credit, she did eventually practice it, but the thing is that it had been few months, so jo retain bhi hua tha, that had also gotten deteriorated a lot more. So this was, by the way, all about passive learning. Then you must be wondering, what is active learning? How can we make that information stick well? In active learning, according to this cone, there are few ways in which you can do that. One is discussion. Then there is that you can, if it's a skill or activity or something else, then definitely I think practice by doing some kind of an activity, doing definitely helps. And the most efficient form of retaining information and the most active form of retaining information is by teaching. And full disclosure, let me also tell you that active learning is way more effortful. It is going to put a lot more strain on your mind than, say, passive learning methods like listening to a lecture or reading notes. But also know this, that that strain means that your brain, your body, your system is actually working hard. It's very, very engaged, and it is in that process forming connections and connecting dots in a way that will actually lock in that information or that skill in a very long lasting and meaningful way. So that is why it really works. Now, when I say strain, right, that word can sometimes spook people that, okay, so if there's strain, then how am I going to motivate myself to do this? I'm going to maybe end up procrastinating. But the only answer for that is that, and the only way to do it that I know of, is that you honestly have to just block time and to make a commitment to yourselves that I have to do this. For example, I'm going to take 15 minutes out and explain a concept to my brother or my sister, or I'm going to block this time, which is on Saturday at maybe 2 p.m. I'm going to make this recipe that I learned. So you just have to block time and you have to put yourself through the process. And that's the only way, honestly. There's no other way. Any other way that I would be sharing would be just philosophy and gyan. Lastly, the highest form of active learning is, as discussed, it's teaching. It helps you in retaining the information in the best way possible, because when you are teaching, it's like you have nowhere to hide. You are completely exposed. Your mind does not have a lot of scope to wander, waver, daydream, any of that. It has to be very present. Your system has to be completely present. And in short, it's like you're in the driver's seat and you are responsible for everyone, and you have to take everyone along with you from point A to point B. So that level of responsibility and that level of engagement that it puts you through ensures that you end up really locking information in the best way possible. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, teaching does not mean you have to be a teacher. If it can mean something as simple as explaining a concept to someone, and even if you don't have anyone, you can just practice. You can just practice speaking out loud, like speaking out of your mouth and explaining something that you've learned, as if you were explaining something to a class. right? And even while doing that, you will understand where your information gaps are, where your knowledge gaps are, what are the areas that you're a little wishy-washy about, you don't fully understand, what are the areas that you are kind of faking it, and you know you can go back and read more and you can clear your doubts. So that will really help you in getting better. So the key takeaway is that you need to understand that how much effort we put in learning new information and acquiring new skills. And we need to realize that the way that a system learns is not just by filling ourselves up, but the learning is actually happening when you work on getting knowledge out of your brain as opposed to just filling yourself up with that knowledge. So think about ways in which you can incorporate active learning into your life. Can you have a discussion with someone? Can you explain a concept to someone? Can you do more of activity doing so that you're putting in more practice? And one more thing, as you're doing that, of course, in the beginning, you are not going to be good. You're going to miss things. You will notice gaps. You will maybe feel stupid about what you're doing because we are so much more comfortable in our head. But the moment we have to step outside of that and do things, we start feeling very self conscious. So, all of that is going to happen. But be aware that you don't let that self judgment stop this process, because this is honestly the only way that a system can learn. And last thing, if you liked what I discussed, then you should definitely check out the work of authors like Peter Brown and Cal Newport, because they have written extensively about these kind of topics, and their writings have also helped me understand these things better. Yeah. And one line to remember is learning happens when you work on getting knowledge out of your brain as opposed to inside your brain.